Okay, welcome to homework 8. So our goal is to look at either a chart or a graph and write a function. So we know our base function is f of x equals a 1 plus or minus r to the x. Sometimes the x is t, but we see here we have x's, so we're going to keep it with x. Okay, so first thing that we want to do is determine if it's growth or decay. So if we're looking at these points, we see that as x increases, right, it's getting bigger. So we can see that it's growth. So now we know that it's a 1 plus r to the x. So now we need to think of our initial, right? Our initial is our a, and it's when x or t equals 0. So here, luckily, we already had it, right? They gave it to us. We know that at x equals 0, we're at 1,000. So we already know that we have an equation. F of x equals 1,000, 1 plus, because it's growth, r to the x. So now we just need to figure out what r is. So there's a few things that we could do. We can plug in a value and just check it and see if it works for a few values. Or we could look at the ratio between 2 points. So let's do the ratio, right? So let's look between 1 and 2. So, right, this goes up 1, up 1, up 1. And then if we look over here, right, if we have 1,800 over 1,000, we get 1.8. And then let's check, right? So this is times 1.8. Here, let me write that a little clear, right? 1, 2 times 1.8. If we do 3240 over 1800, let me get out my calculator. But we will find that it's also 1.8. All right, so we have 3246. Oh, that's a 40. 3240 divided by 1800, we get 1.8. So we know that it is growing 1.8. So our final answer is f of x equals 1,000, 1 plus 0.8 to the x, or 1.8 to the x. Another way that we could check is let's plug in a point, right? Let's plug in check 3, 5, 8, 3, 2, right? So if I go f of 3 equals 1,000, 1.8 to the third. So 1.8 times 1.8 times 1.8 equals times 1,000 equals 583. So I know that it worked. Another thing that you can think of is like it is 1.8 of the previous value, right? All right, so there's a few ways to come up with that. Let's try another one. So this one's a graph. So you can either make the table yourself, if that helps, f of x. And we have 0, 100, 1, 120, and 2, 144. So you can see right here it crosses at 0. So we already know that it's growth. And we know that a equals 100, right? This is our y-intercept. So let's just put in a point, right? So we have f of x equals 100, 1 plus r to the x. So let's try 1 and 120, right? So we have 120 equals 100, 1 plus r to the 1, right? So we could see here, we could do 120 equals 100, 1 plus r, anything to the first power is just itself. So we have 1 plus r. So we could either divide both sides by 100 or we could distribute the 100. So I'm going to distribute the 100. So 120 equals 100 plus 100r. Then we subtract the 100, so we have 20 equals 100r. And then we divide by 100, so we have 20 over 100 equals r, so we have r equals 0.2. Right? So our final answer is f of x equals 100, 1 plus 0.2 to the x, or 100, 1.2 to the x. Right? And let's look at the ratio again between these things, right? So here we go plus 1, and then here we have 120 over 100. So we just want to do this one, the second one over the first one, equals 1.2. 144 over 120. 144 divided by 120 equals 1.2. Right? This is our final answer. All right. Let's take a look at (11). We did this in class. This is a decay, right? This is our first decay. So we have a decay, and we have a equals 50, right? Here's our intercept right here. So I'm going to make a table. X, f of x. We have -2, 1250, -1, 250, 050, 110, and 2, all right? These points are right here, and they're labeled for us so we could see. So we can see right here, +1, +1, +1, +1. And then if we go here, right, we want the lower one over the bigger one. Not lower in value, but like the second number. So we have 250 divided by 1250 is 0.2, right? So if we look here, we have f of x equals 51 minus r, because it's decay, to the x. And we can see that it's dividing by 5 each time, right? So you can think of like it is 20% of the previous value, right? So we have f of x equals 50, 0.2 to the x, right? So we could also write that as f of x equals 50 minus 1 times 50 1 minus r to the x. So r equals 0.8, right? Our decay factor is 0.8, but the number that we put in here is 0.2 because it's 1 minus r, right? 1 minus 0.8. So make sure you remember, don't get confused between decay factor and then what number is in this parentheses, right? All right, let's take a look at another decay. We have a equals 230. So we have f of x equals 230, 1 minus r to the x. Let's plug in 115, right? So we have 115 equals 230, 1 minus r to the 1. We could solve this. Let's divide by the 230 now on both sides. So we have 115 over 230 equals 1 minus r, right? Anything to the first is just itself. This is the same as 1/2. 1/2 equals 1 minus r. So 1 minus what equals 1/2? 1 minus 1/2 equals 1/2. So r equals 1/2. So we have f of x equals 230, 1 minus 0.5 to the x, or 230, 0.5 to the x, right? And we could also look at the xy chart, x of f of x chart, and we would see, you know, this would be +1, +1, and then this would be decreasing by a certain amount. All right, let's take a look at 17, right? So here we have plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 2, plus 1, plus 1. And then here we could check. So we have 1112.5 over 56.2. 112.5 divided by 56.2. So that's 56.5, my bad. So 112.5, 112.5 divided by 56.5. 56.25. 112.5 divided by 56.25 equals 2, right? So it's doubling, right? Times 2. Doubling times 4 times 2 times 2, right? So we're skipping this guy. So we know that we have f of x equals a 2 to the x, right? But we don't know what a is. So if we think, right, if we were here and we needed to double to move 1, then we know that to double that would be 900. So we know that a equals 900 because we found the pattern, right? We're doubling each time. And so that means even though we can't see it on the chart, we know that if we start at -1 and we go plus 1, then we need to go times 2. So we have f of x equals, right here, f of x equals 902 to the x. All right, let's just check and make sure that we did that right. Okay, let's check this point right here. So we're going to check. We have 7,200 equals 902 to the 3. Let's see if that checks out, right? Or we'll just say f of 3. So we have 2 times 2 times 2, 8 times 900, 7,200. So our equation works. So we have 900, 1 plus 1 to the 3rd, or 902 to the 3rd, right? Sorry, not to the 3rd, to the x, because it's an equation, right? So it's doubling, but our growth factor is 1, right? Because our growth factor is 1 plus r. Okay, and then let's take a look at 23. So 23, this one's a little tricky. This is 100, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 lines, so this is 90. So you have a equals 90, or growth. So I'm going to make a chart. We have x, f of x. We have -1, 0, 1, 50, 90, 162, plus 1, plus 1. We have 90 over 50 equals 1.4. 162 over 90 equals 1.8. That's 1.8. So, right, it is, so the next number is 1.8 the previous. So we have f of x equals 91 plus 0.8 to the x, or we could write that as 91.8 to the x. All right, so remember, you can always check, right? If your equation, you can check as many points as you want, and if you find one point that doesn't work, then you know that you did it wrong. So make sure you're double checking with the points to see if your equation is right.